Hello, my name is Rigers Bakiu. I'm a university professor at the Department of Aquaculture and Fisheries at the Department of Agricultural University of Tirana, one of the public universities in Albania and a member of the Albanian Center for Environmental Protection and Sustainable Development, one of a few non-for-profit organizations engaged in marine biodiversity and fishery projects in Albania. I'm glad to bring you this series of video tutorials from the MedPAN regular training program. This series of video tutorials is designed to give you basics for getting started on characterizing fishing activities in your marine protected areas. In this first video, we'll look at the Mediterranean fisheries and different types of fishing vessels they use. Fisheries can be defined as the harvesting, processing, and distribution of fish and other aquatic organisms. Fisheries are an important source of food and income for many countries in the Mediterranean region, but they also face challenges such as overfishing, pollution, and climate change. The management of Mediterranean fisheries is complex and involves multiple stakeholders, including fishers, scientists, policymakers, and conservation organizations. Let's start with an overview. The Mediterranean is the top tourism destination worldwide, but also the world's most overfished sea with the highest percentage of unsustainable harvested fish populations, according to a recent report from the FAO, which is the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. The increase in human activity makes Mediterranean marine ecosystems some of the most threatened in the world. Of all the human threats, overfishing, bottom trawling, and ocean plastic pollution are the most destructive. They are considered the worst offenders, trashing the world's most popular sea, according to a 2018 report published from Oceana. What does it mean? About 75% of fish stocks are still overfished in the Mediterranean, rising to 93% within EU waters, and total fish populations have fallen by more than a third over the past half century. The cause of this ecological crisis is represented by the increased fleet capacity, illegal fishing, and catches of unwanted species, according to recent reports from WWF Mediterranean. Fisheries and aquaculture, nevertheless, remain important to the Mediterranean region for a number of reasons. The first reason is the economic importance. Fisheries and aquaculture are major economic activities in the Mediterranean region. They provide employment opportunities and contribute significantly to the gross domestic product of many countries. Food security is another reason. The Mediterranean region is heavily dependent on fish as a source of protein. Fisheries and aquaculture help to ensure food security to the region's growing population. Tourism. The Mediterranean is a popular tourist destination, and fisheries and aquaculture can enhance the tourism industry by providing fresh seafood to local restaurants and markets. Biodiversity conservation is another reason. The Mediterranean Sea is one of the most biodiverse marine ecosystems in the world. Fisheries and aquaculture can help to conserve biodiversity by supporting sustainable fishing practices and protecting vulnerable species. Climate change resilience. Fisheries and aquaculture can help to build resilience against the impact of climate change by providing alternative livelihoods and food sources for communities affected by changing weather patterns and sea level rise. According to the recent statistics reported by GFCM, the total production in the Mediterranean Black Sea is around 3 million tons, while the provided employment is about 1 million jobs. The total revenue is up to 12 billion US dollars, and at least each country is characterized by at least a fisher in each coastal village. Over the same period, 43% of marine fish production in the Mediterranean regions comes from aquaculture, but despite the slight predominance of capture fisheries as the main production source, aquaculture is highly significant for several Mediterranean countries and plays an increasing role in fish supply. It is well known that overfishing has been a significant issue in the Mediterranean for many years, leading to a declining fish population and negative impacts on the ecosystem. Efforts have been made to address this issue through regulations and sustainable fishing practices, but the industry continues to face challenges. During the second half of the 20th century, the size and fishing power of Mediterranean fishing fleets grew progressively and reached maximum values at the end of the 1980s or mid-1990s, depending on the areas. Often encouraged by public administration and in the absence of rigorous scientific advice, it has resulted in the expansion of fisheries exploitation and the depletion of marine living resources. Landings increased continuously from the early 1970s to the early 1990s and have been declining ever since. Although excessive fishing pressure is often cited as the main cause for the decline of fish resources, other impacts such as sea warming, pollution, or invasive species are contributing to reducing the resilience of already overfished stocks. But by the way, what is meant by fisheries? A fishery is an area where fish are caught for commercial or recreational purposes. It can be a defined body of water or a collection of fishing activities that have been agreed upon by countries and fishers. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO) defines a fishery as an activity leading to the harvesting of fish within the boundaries of a defined area. Commonly, a fishery is defined by a combination of some or all of the following parameters: people involved, species or type of fish, area of water or seabed, method of fishing, class of boats, purpose of the activities. But can fisheries be sustainable? According to the FAO, the answer is yes. Sustainable fishing is achievable. So, what is sustainable fishing? Sustainable fishing means leaving enough fish in the ocean and protecting habitats and threatened species. By safeguarding the oceans, people who depend on fishing can maintain their livelihoods. The main goal of sustainable fisheries management is to ensure continued biological productivity of exploited stocks and the preservation of the marine ecosystem while also supporting the economic and social needs of local fishing communities. In order to reach this goal, fisheries management frameworks and strategies are applied in the Mediterranean. Those refer to the policies and practices that are implemented to regulate fishing activities in the region. This includes the management of fish stocks, the regulation of fishing methods and gear, the establishment of fishing quotas and seasons, the monitoring and enforcement of regulations, and the promotion of sustainable fishing practices. Consequently, governments and international organizations in the Mediterranean establish fishing regulations to safeguard fish and marine life in the region. These regulations are designed to ensure that fishing practices are sustainable, meaning that they do not harm the environment or deplete fish populations. Fisheries regulations at international level are drawn up by international organizations, which then pass them on to national governments, mainly in the form of recommendations aimed at improving fisheries management at national level. In the Mediterranean, several international organizations play significant roles in creating and implementing fisheries regulations. Some of the main ones include the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean, GFCM, which is an organization under the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. The GFCM is a regional fisheries management organization that works specifically for the conservation and sustainable use of marine resources in the Mediterranean and Black Sea. The International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas, differently known by the name ICAT. Although it's focused on the Atlantic, ICAT plays a role in the regulation of tuna species in the Mediterranean due to the migratory nature of these fish. The European Union, the EU, has its own common fisheries policy, which impacts the fisheries regulations in Mediterranean countries that are member states. The UNEP Mediterranean Action Plan and the Barcelona Convention. While UNEP-MAP is focused on the overall protection and sustainable development of the marine and coastal environment in the Mediterranean, the Barcelona Convention is specifically aimed at reducing pollution and protecting the environment. Both play roles that indirectly impact fisheries through their focus on health marine ecosystem. These organizations work collaboratively with national governments and other stakeholders to ensure the sustainable management of marine resources in the Mediterranean region. Their role includes setting policies and regulations to ensure sustainable fishing practices, monitoring and assessing the health of fish populations and their habitats, providing technical assistance and training to member states, and promoting cooperation and collaborations among countries to achieve common goals. Let's take a moment to look at the key role of the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean. Differently known by its acronym as GFCM, it represents a regional fisheries management organization known as RFMO, established in 1949 under the umbrella of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, mostly known by its acronym as FAO. The GFCM plays a critical role in fisheries governance, having the authority to adopt binding recommendations for fisheries conservation and management and for aquaculture development. These recommendations can relate, among others, to the regulation of fishing methods, fishing gear and minimum landing size, as well as the establishment of special protection measures, fishing effort control, and of multi-annual management plans for selected fisheries. In cooperation with other RFMOs, the GFCM plays a decisive part in coordinating governmental efforts to effectively manage fisheries at the regional level following the United Nations Fish Stocks Agreement and in line with the FAO Code of Conduct for Responsible Fisheries. Moreover, it closely collaborates with intergovernmental, non-governmental, and civil society organizations in matters of mutual interest. As fisheries and the marine environments and ecosystems across the Mediterranean face growing pressure from a range of anthropogenic sources, it is critical that action is taken to manage their long-term sustainability. Productive fisheries and aquaculture operations require healthy seas, and conserving marine environment is a central aspect of the GFCM's work. The implementation of a sub-regional approach in the Mediterranean Black Sea region is a priority for the GFCM in order to achieve sustainable fisheries and aquaculture development. Its area of application is divided into 5 subregions: the Western, Central, and Eastern Mediterranean, the Adriatic Sea, and the Black Sea. These subregions are then divided into 30 geographical subareas. 5 technical units are currently being established to cover each GFCM subregion: in Bulgaria for the Black Sea, in Croatia for the Adriatic Sea, in Lebanon for the Eastern Mediterranean, in Spain for the Western Mediterranean, and in Tunisia for the Central Mediterranean. These technical units promote cooperation and facilitate dialogue on major issues and cross-border challenges, taking into account the particular needs and characteristics of each subregion. In practical terms, the units provide strategic and technical assistance for helping countries effectively meet their commitment to the GFCM. The main categories of fisheries. Mediterranean fisheries can be broken down into 3 main categories, which we will address in this training course. Industrial, also referred to as large-scale fisheries, small-scale or artisanal fisheries, and recreational or sport fishing, which is about fishing for leisure or competition with no commercial purpose. As Mediterranean marine protected areas are mainly coastal, this training on the characterization of fishing activities in Your MPA will primarily focus on small-scale and recreational fisheries. Industrial or large-scale fishing activities that may also occur within or around some MPAs will be briefly covered. Fisheries in the Mediterranean use large-scale vessels and advanced technology for commercial fishing, providing employment and income for thousands of people and thus contributing significantly to regional economies with a revenue of approximately 2.5 billion euros. However, these activities are associated with overfishing, habitat destruction, and depletion of fish stocks, raising sustainability concerns. Firstly, small-scale fisheries are carried out by small boats, using traditional and low-impact fishing methods, and typically targeting a variety of species for local markets. Small-scale fisheries are often family-run or community-based and provide essential employment for about 100,000 people in the Mediterranean region, predominantly in rural and coastal areas, generating around 300 million euro annually. Accounting for 19% of the total catch, these fisheries are vital for local consumption, cultural heritage, and contribute to the food security of many coastal communities. Recreational fishing, undertaken for leisure or sport rather than commercial purposes, is another significant sector in the Mediterranean. Popular techniques include spearfishing, trawling, angling, shore angling, and long lining. Recreational fishing is an important activity for tourism and local economies in the Mediterranean region, but it can also have negative impacts on fish populations and ecosystems if not managed sustainably. In some areas, recreational fishing catches can be equal or even greater than those from small-scale fisheries. This high level of recreational catches underscores the need for effective regulation and management to ensure the health and sustainability of Mediterranean marine life and the communities that depend on it. Around 83% of the total fishing vessels operating in the Mediterranean and Black Sea are small-scale vessels, followed by trawlers and beam trawlers, which account about 7.8%, seiners and pelagic trawlers, which accounts about 5.1%, and other fleet segments, which account about 4.2%. This graph clearly shows that the majority of Mediterranean fishing vessels are engaged in small-scale artisanal fishing. However, as shown here, small-scale vessels account for just under 20% of total landings in the Mediterranean Sea. As the graph on the left shows for the period 2018-2020, the top fishing countries in the Mediterranean are Egypt, Turkey, Croatia, Spain, Greece, Algeria, Tunisia, and Italy, which is the biggest contributors in terms of quantity landed from fishing activities. The second graph shows the percentage breakdown of the fishing fleet in the Mediterranean. It is important to note that the overall number of vessels and slight yearly changes are estimated figures and likely less than the actual fleet size. This underestimate is mainly due to missing data, particularly concerning the small-scale fleets of certain Mediterranean and Black Sea coastal countries. Around 60% of the total number of fishing vessels declared are in just four countries, represented by Turkey, Tunisia, Greece, and Italy. Small-scale fishers operate close to the shore, within the littoral zone, usually in water less than 40 meters deep. They use small boats and gear tailored for a variety of species found in these nearshore waters. Recreational fishing generally takes place in these same shallow coastal waters, where people fish for leisure. Recreational fishing activities are generally carried out from the shore, from a boat or underwater in the case of spearfishing. Regarding large-scale or industrial fishing vessels, trawlers and purseaners fish in coastal areas in characteristic depths of the continental shelf, from 90 to 250 meters. Trawlers are designed to catch demersal species, meaning those living and feeding on or near the seabed, typically shrimps and flatfish species, as well as recruits and juveniles. Purseaners target schools of small pelagic species such as anchovies and sardines, and sometimes larger pelagic species like tuna and amberjacks. At the continental slope, where the depth is more than 250-300 meters, bottom trawlers target the European hen and other demersal species like Norway lobster and shrimps. Surface longliners, another component of the industrial fleet, operate in the open oceanic waters, targeting migratory species like swordfish and bluefin tuna. These longliners set lines with baited hooks at the surface to attract and catch these oceanic pelagics, which are often undersized. This distribution of fleets across different marine zones highlights the variety of fishing methods and the range of species targeted from coastal to open ocean environments. It also underscores the need for managing fisheries to ensure sustainability across all depths and regions of the Mediterranean Sea. Now let's take a closer look at industrial fishing and its large-scale fishing fleet. What are industrial fisheries? Industrial refers to the high level of technology, investment, and impact it brings to a fishery. Industrial fisheries, with a few exceptions in marine fisheries, use big boats worth several million dollars, often equipped with technologies capable of huge and efficient catches. Vessels may be engaged in fishing campaigns lasting from a few days to several weeks. This category generally includes trawlers, pelagic trawlers, seiners, and other types of vessels, although there is no clear definition. A trawler is a type of fishing vessel that uses a large net called a trawl to catch fish and other marine species. The trawl is dragged along the seabed or through the water column, collecting fish and other marine life as it goes. Trawlers are commonly used in the Mediterranean to catch species such as shrimps, hake, red mullets, and flatfish species. However, there is growing concern about the environmental impact of trawling on the Mediterranean ecosystem, and efforts are being made to promote more sustainable fishing practices. As you can see in the graph, most of the trawlers used in the Mediterranean basin are between 12 and 24 meters long. Among trawlers, the beam trawler is a type of fishing vessel that uses a large rectangular net. In the Mediterranean, beam trawlers are commonly used to catch bottom-dwelling species such as sole and shrimp. However, their use is controversial due to the concerns about overfishing and damage to the seabed ecosystem. Some Mediterranean countries have implemented regulation to limit the use of beam trawls or ban them in certain areas. In Italy, for example, they are not used all year round, but only during certain months. Another member of the trawler family is the bottom trawler. It is a type of fishing vessel that drags a large net along the seabed to catch fish and other marine organisms. In the Mediterranean, bottom water trawlers are commonly used to catch demersal fish species such as red mullet, hake, and sea breams. However, this fishing method is often criticized for its impact on the marine ecosystem and the unintended capture of non-target species, also known as bycatch. A pelagic trawler is a type of fishing vessel used to catch pelagic fish, meaning species that live in the water column. The picture shows a pelagic trawler that specifically targets fish living in the middle layers of the water column. Pelagic trawlers use a large, cone-shaped net called a trawl to catch fish. The net is dragged behind the vessel and, as it moves through the water, it captures fish that are swimming in the area. In the Mediterranean, pelagic trawlers are commonly used to catch species such as sardines, anchovies, and mackerels. They are often equipped with advanced technology and equipment to help locate fish and improve the efficiency of the fishing process. The large-scale Mediterranean fishing fleet also includes seiners, which use encircling nets and seine nets. Seiners comprise a large group ranging from open boats and canoes to large oceanic-going vessels. As the graph shows, most purse seiners in the Mediterranean are either over 12 meters or between 6 and 12 meters. Commonly used in the Mediterranean, the purse seiner is a type of fishing vessel designed to catch pelagic fish such as sardines, anchovies, and tuna. It is equipped with a large net that is set around a school of fish and then drawn close at the bottom like a purse. Hence the name. The catch is then lifted aboard the vessel and sorted. In order to assist in spotting fish schools, masts are equipped with crow's nests. Purse-seiners are also often used in conjunction with spotted planes to locate schools of fish, and they are a highly efficient method of fishing that can yield large quantities of fish in a single hole. However, their use has been controversial due to concerns about overfishing and bycatch of non-target species. A relatively high level of maneuverability required to operate the surrounding and seine nets. For this reason, large seiners are often fitted with lateral thrusters. Industrial fisheries include other fleet segments comprising polyvalent vessels, longliners, and dredgers. Polyvalent vessels are defined as all vessels using more than one gear type with a combination of passive and active types of gear, none of which are used for more than 50% of the time at sea during the year. A longliner is a type of fishing vessel that uses a long line with baited hooks to catch fish. In the Mediterranean, longliners are commonly used to target species such as tuna, swordfish, and sharks. These vessels can be several meters long and are equipped with specialized equipment such as hydraulic systems to handle the long lines and large catches. Longlining is a controversial fishing method due to its potential impact on non-target species and the environment. The picture shows a dredge mostly used for bivalves in the Mediterranean. As you can see on the slides, most of these fishing vessels are polyvalent vessels and longliners between 12 and 24 meters in length. Let's now move on to small-scale fisheries and their vessels. The term small-scale fisheries is often equated with artisanal fishing. The FAO glossary indicates that small-scale fisheries are traditional fisheries involving fishing households as opposed to commercial companies, using relatively small amounts of capital and energy, relatively small fishing vessels, if any, making short fishing trips close to shore and mainly for local consumption. Artisanal fisheries can be subsistence or commercial fisheries, providing fishing products for local consumption or export. In spite of its relatively low volume of catches and economic weights, for instance compared to large-scale industrial fisheries, artisanal fishing is still socially important and an integral part of the Mediterranean coastal zone, according to the FAO report of 2020, where it remains a major source of food with employment and economic benefits for local communities. Although artisanal fisheries are thought to have greater positive effects on coastal communities and less impact on the marine environment than their industrial counterparts, they are poorly considered politically and insufficiently differentiated in regulatory terms. The small-scale fishing fleet mainly consists of small vessels up to 12 meters in length, with engines and using passive gear like fixed nets. This category also includes small vessels without engines and using passive gears. A pole and line fishing vessel in artisanal fisheries in the Mediterranean is a small-scale fishing boat that uses a simple fishing method that involves a pole, a line, and a baited hook to catch fish one at a time. This type of fishing is considered sustainable and low impact, as it targets specific species and avoids bycatch of non-targeted species. Pole and line fishing vessels are typically operated by small-scale fishers and are common in coastal communities throughout the Mediterranean. On these vessels, used primarily for catching tuna and skipjack, the fishers stand on the railing or on special platforms and fish with poles, to which a line with hook is attached. Tanks with live baits and water spray system for fish attraction are typical features of these vessels. Because live bait is used to attract fish, the fishing method is also known as live bait fishing. Two types of pole and line vessels can be distinguished, the Japanese type and the American type. Fixed net fishing vessels are, as you may have guessed, fishing boats that use nets fixed in place to catch fish. These nets can be set along the shore or in deeper waters, and they are designed to trap fish as they swim by. In the Mediterranean, fishers who use these vessels typically work in small groups and use traditional fishing methods that have been passed down through generations. The catch from these boats is often sold locally or used for personal consumption. The use of floating or heavy devices on nets, in particular travel nets and gill nets, enables them to fish close to the surface, in mid-water or on the seabed. After each fishing session, as the boat sails, the the fisher retrieves and cleans the net of its catch, preparing it for reuse in the same fishing area or in another one. A long-line fishing vessel is a type of artisanal fishing boat that uses a long line with baited hooks to catch fish. In the Mediterranean, this type of fishing is typically used to catch species such as tuna, swordfish, and other big pelagic species, including sharks as bycatch. Long-line fishing vessels can vary in size and design, but they generally have a large deck area for handling and storing the catch, as well as equipment for baiting and settling the fishing line. These vessels are often operated by small-scale or family-run fishing businesses and are an important part of the local fishing economy. However, there are concerns about the sustainability of long-line fishing practices and their impact on marine ecosystems. Artisanal fisheries are often considered to have potentially less impact on marine resources than large-scale industrial fisheries because of their coastal fishing strategies, usually within a limited radius of home harbors, aiming to alternate areas and selective fishing gears to target different species according to season. In addition, due to selective fishing techniques, artisanal fisheries discard little to no fish and do not substantially impact benthic communities due to the adoption of passive gears. This does not mean that small-scale fishing is inherently sustainable. Artisanal fishing does have the potential to seriously impact fishing resources where, for example, the fishing effort is considerably high, as shown in the publication from Tudela in 2004 or Muniz and colleagues in 2013, or when using specific drift nets or because of ghost fishing by abandoned or discarded small-scale gears. Additionally, adverse impacts may include involuntary selective catch of individuals of the same sex hampering reproduction or catches below the minimum landing size, thus preventing individuals to reach maturity and reproduce. The punctual killing or harassment of some unwanted competitors like cetaceans, seals, and other marine predators is another issue of potential importance in the Mediterranean. Before looking at how small-scale fishing can be sustainable, we will explain the concepts of fishing effort and fishing gears. What is fishing effort? Fishing effort is the amount of fishing gear of a specific type used on the fishing grounds over a given unit of time, for example, hours trawled per day, number of hook sets per day, or number of holes of a beach seine per day. What is a fishing gear? A fishing gear is any physical device or part thereof, or combination of items that may be placed or in the water or on the seabed, with the intended purpose of capturing or controlling for subsequent capture or harvesting marine or freshwater organisms. We'll come back to these notions in more details in another tutorial. The sustainability potential of small-scale fishing involves regulating the fishing effort, selecting appropriate characteristics of fishing gears, and deriving more value from catches rather than increasing their size as stated in several scientific publications. Although this first video focuses on fishing vessels and not all recreational fisheries use boats, we'll conclude with an overview of recreational fishing, which is particularly popular in the Mediterranean and whose impact is often largely underestimated. According to the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean, recreational fishing means a non-commercial fishing activity exploiting marine living resources for recreation, tourism, or sport. Within this broad definition, recreational fishing can be divided into three categories: amateur fishing, sport competition fishing, and tourism fishing, each with its own objectives and as defined as follows according to the guidelines provided by Gaudin and de Jong in 2007. Amateur fishing is defined as an unorganized hobby fishing, unorganized in the sense that it is not associated with specific events or competitions. Catches from amateur fishing are either released, like the catch and release practices, or retained for private consumption. This first category is the one that generally comes to mind when we talk about recreational fishing. Sport fishing is described as an organized activity involving free competition between fisheries to catch the largest fish of a certain species, the largest number of species, or the largest total weight depending on the rules of each particular competition. Sport fishing is also referred to as tournament, competition, and contest and big game fishing. Tourism fishing can be understood as fishing activity carried out by a third party who organizes a fishing expedition for tourists. Tourism fishing can be conducted by commercial fishers like pescaturismo or by recreational fishing professionals, charters. One main difference being the type of the boat used, commercial fishing boats versus leisure boats. Monitoring recreational fishing activities can be challenging due to various reasons, including the high number of recreational fishers. The Mediterranean is a popular destination for recreational fishing, with a large number of local fishers in addition to those visiting the region. It can be difficult to monitor and regulate the activities of the large number of recreational fishers scattered at sea, underwater, and along the coastline. Lack of data is another reason. There is a lack of reliable data on recreational fishing activities in the Mediterranean. This makes it difficult to assess the impact of fishing on fish populations and ecosystems. Limited resources is the last reason. Many countries in the Mediterranean region have limited resources to monitor and regulate recreational fishing activities. This makes it difficult to enforce regulations and ensure compliance. Besides survey methodologies that can be complex and time-consuming to implement, social media can be used to identify and monitor recreational fishing activities occurring in and around your marine protected areas. Recreational fishers often share their catches and experiences on social media platforms such as on Instagram, Facebook, and X Twitter platform. By monitoring these posts, MPA and fisheries managers can gain insight into the species being caught, the locations where fishing is taking place, and the number of fishing being caught. This information can be used to inform management decisions such as setting catch limits or implementing fishing restrictions in certain areas. Additionally, social media can be used to engage with recreational fishers and educate them about sustainable fishing practices and conservation efforts. In the Mediterranean and the Black Sea, some countries already collect specific types of data including estimates of recreational catch and release of bluefin tuna, European eel, and elasmobranchs. However, standard and harmonized monitoring programs for recreational fisheries with statistical robust sampling designs are not yet regularly implemented in most countries. Therefore, with a view to moving towards an assessment of recreational fisheries, the GFCM proposed a roadmap to pilot recreational fisheries assessment toward the development of harmonized regional methodology. Here is shown this very helpful handbook prepared by Grati and colleagues, which is available as FAO publications since 2021. The impact of recreational fishing on fishery resources has long been underestimated, but a number of studies carried out in the Mediterranean in recent years have revealed that it is often comparable to that of small-scale coastal fisheries. A paper published in 2019 by Loret and colleagues highlights the impact of recreational and small-scale fisheries on vulnerable marine species in the Mediterranean, focusing on 3 MPAs in Spain and France. The diagram on these slides provides a comparative overview of the catch composition across different recreational and small-scale fishing techniques, including boat fishing, shore fishing, spear fishing, and various netting techniques. The paper shows that these fishing activities significantly contribute to the capture of species classified as vulnerable, endangered, or critically endangered. Overall, the study shows that a quarter, about 23%, of the species caught in coastal waters were vulnerable. Specifically, 29% of species caught by small-scale fisheries were considered vulnerable, and 21% of species caught by recreational fisheries deemed vulnerable. In offshore waters, 100% of recreational and artisanal catches were of vulnerable species. The fishing methods that targeted the highest number of vulnerable species were in decreasing order, represented by trammel net, boat fishing, gill net, shore fishing, spear fishing, long lines, and pound nets. Another paper published in 2016 by Prato and colleagues, which is entitled Assessing Interacting Impacts of Artisanal and Recreational Fisheries in a Small Marine Protected Area, Portofino in Italy, illustrates the comparison between small-scale and recreational fisheries. Within MPAs, traditional artisanal fishing is competing for space and resources with increasing recreational fishing, likely leading to interacting ecological effects. The diagram on this slide shows the trophic spectra of the cumulated fisheries catches, comparing recreational catches to those from artisanal fisheries, more specifically fixed nets and purse seines. As can be seen, recreational fishing tends to target species across a broader range of trophic levels compared to artisanal fishing methods. Recreational fishing catches might include both smaller, more abundant species at lower trophic levels and larger, predatory fish at higher trophic levels, reflecting the diverse interests and techniques of recreational fishers. Artisanal fishers tend to focus on more specific trophic levels, often aiming at species that are economically valuable of an area or abundant in a given area. Considering the cumulative impact, the wide trophic range targeted by recreational fishing and the more specific targeted by artisanal fishing together influence ecosystem dynamics and affect species populations diversely. The study carried out in the Portofino MPA also shows that artisanal and recreational fisheries catches were respectively 53% and 47% of total landings. Similar results, demonstrating comparable catch levels between recreational and small-scale fisheries on common target species, have been found in other Mediterranean MPAs, such as the Côte Bleue Marine Park in France. Such studies demonstrate the need for tailored conservation strategies considering both recreational and artisanal fishing in terms of target, species, and catch values. They can be supported by measures such as setting species-specific quotas, seasonal closures, or geo-restriction to mitigate impacts on vulnerable species or trophic levels, ensuring a balanced approach to fisheries management. Tourism fishing refers to fishing expeditions organized by a third party for tourists. The Mediterranean region offers a diverse range of fish species that can be caught, including tuna, swordfish, sea bream, and sea bass. Fishing tourism is a popular activity in the Mediterranean, attracting thousands of tourists each year who come to enjoy the region's natural beauty and abundant marine life. The aim of charter fishing is mainly to fish, whereas with the concept of pescaturismo, the purpose is not only fishing but also to practice snorkeling, to eat on board fish cooked in a traditional way, and just enjoy a day on a boat in the middle of the sea. Legislation varies for each type of tourism fishing across Mediterranean countries, according to the publication authored by Gaudin and de Young in 2007. Thank you for watching this first video, which I hope gave you a better understanding of the different categories of fisheries and fishing vessels. To check this out, take a walk around the ports near your MPA and try to identify the boats you come across. This is a simple first step you can take to get started characterizing fishing activities in your marine protected area. And stay tuned for the next video on fishing gears, techniques, and métiers. Bye!